Are you eating clean and healthy, but still not losing fat? You're doing all the right things. I mean, lean proteins, whole foods, cutting out junk, maybe no more soda, got rid of beer and alcohol, and the scale just isn't budging as much as you thought. Or maybe you've done that in the past where you cleaned up all your foods, you cut out the sugar, you cut out all the stuff, and you start losing a little bit, and then bam, you hit that plateau and nothing else comes off, and yet you've got no more fun foods, no more good foods in your life, and you're like, what the heck is giving here? I don't get it. Well, the truth is that clean eating, especially if you're doing it 100% of the time, might actually be the very thing keeping you stuck. Now, I know that sounds crazy, that a health and fitness coach is telling you that eating clean and healthy all the time might be sabotaging your weight loss, but hang with me. I'm going to prove it to you and kind of show you why doing this might keep you stuck in the weight loss trap and cycle over and over. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're coming back, welcome back. It's great to have you. My name is Lance, and I have been a fitness coach for going on 20 years, literally since 2005, and I specialize in helping busy professionals and entrepreneurs who love food get the weight off and get a fitness transformation instead of a temporary makeover like most people get when they lose weight. And I do it in a way that they enjoy what they're doing, so there is no wagon to fall off of, proverbially speaking. So if you can relate to that, you're in the right place. And in this video today, I am going to break down why clean eating might be sabotaging all of this. So my client, let's call her Lisa for the sake of her, anonymity here, was in the exact same position. And I remember it very distinctly going back and forth with her because she ate so clean and so healthy. And she was eating perfectly for weeks, literally about 2 months into. Back in the day, I was doing personal training with her, and she was doing everything from grilled chicken. I mean, she wouldn't even do chicken thighs. It was chicken breast, veggies, turkey burgers, lean turkey. It was like, I mean, there was no red meat, veggies, avocados, nuts, the cleanest smoothies you might imagine. And no matter what she did, the scale was stalled. She just was not losing. Now, she was getting stronger, but she was like, what gives? I don't get it. Now, of course, I was talking with her about, hey, this really has more to do with caloric intake and some other things. And she, came from a medical field, so she was not having it. She wasn't hearing it. Wait a second, you're telling me that I'm eating too healthy, too clean? I'm like, well, that's not exactly the case. You're eating so clean and healthy, but there are a few things that are really holding you back. And it has more to do with energy balance and lacking energy deficits. And I'll explain what that means here in a second. And the thing is that when we made just a few small tweaks, when I finally convinced her, you're not going to see the results you want until we make these changes, it was like just magic. We made those few small tweaks and she dropped over 20 pounds in less than 60 days. Now, we didn't increase how often she trained. We didn't increase her cardio. We didn't increase anything. We literally only changed her nutrition from eating clean all the time to not. And I'll explain that. And next thing you know, she's down over 20 pounds in less than 60 days. Now, this was without giving up her favorite foods and without any longer eating clean 100% of the time. So today I'm going to break down exactly why clean eating can sabotage your fat loss and what to do instead, okay? So stick around because at the end, though, I'm going to send you my fat loss formula calculator. Just had this thing built a couple weeks ago. I am super proud of it. Took me a good little bit to build, and it works flawlessly. Absolutely amazing. This way you can make sure that your nutrition is set up for optimal results without doing what she was doing, getting trapped in eating healthy all the time and just not seeing the results that you want. So if you're watching live, go ahead and drop the fire emoji. Let me know that you're watching live. Or if you're catching the replay, go ahead and type replay so that I know that you're here. Let me know where you're watching if you don't mind. Also, I love kind of hearing where everybody is. I get people in other countries, people all across the United States and Canada. I've got clients. We've had clients everywhere from France to India, Canada, you name it. So just really cool to kind of hear where you guys are all tuning in at. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to talk a little fast today because I want to make sure that this is a relatively short or moderately short video, and I don't want to drone on and keep you guys bored. So or bore you guys. They shouldn't be keeping you guys bored. I want to keep you entertained and keep you actually getting value, or what we call valuetainment. So with that being said, why does clean eating backfire? Let's start diving into that part first. Well, the problem, one, is that clean or healthy doesn't mean fat loss. It doesn't mean that the foods that you're eating just guarantee fat loss just because you're eating healthy. And this was one of the biggest things that many of my clients, again, we're talking, I've done this since 2005. Many clients, that's the first thing they want to tell me is like, Lance, I'm not losing weight. Let me share all the things I'm eating. I do chicken and avocado and tuna and this and this. What gives? Tell me. And I'm like, well, it's not just that simple. It's not just, well, if you eat these foods and avoid these, you're going to lose weight. If that's how it worked, anybody who eats healthy and moves around a little bit, they're just going to drop weight. And you guys can probably comment to let me know, you know, people who have eaten healthy, you've eaten healthy, and you've not seen the weight loss that you feel you deserve for the effort you're putting in. So people assume that just because they're eating healthy, they're automatically in a fat loss deficit. Nothing could be further from the truth. Fat loss comes down to calories in versus calories out. Now, it's not as simple as just eat less and move more. Anybody who tries to oversimplify it, they don't get how this works. Everything from your sleep to your hormones to your stress to the thermic effect of feeding and the foods that you eat, all the way to the calories that you burn, then we're talking about adaptive thermogenesis, where your metabolism slows down if you have fallen prey to excessive cardio or chronic dieting. These are all things that affect calories in versus calories out. So it's not as simple as just move more and eat less. So if you've ever heard a doctor say that to you, or if you've ever had somebody imply that to you, you can dismiss that, okay? It's not that simple. If it were, I don't think that 70% of the United States would be overweight. They would have gotten it by now, right? So with that being said, even clean foods can be what we call calorie bombs. And normally what I'm going to say is that most foods are going to be categorized into either calorie dense or nutrient dense. Nutrient dense are your holistic foods. Calorie dense are going to be foods that don't offer as much nutrients in there, and they're typically higher in calorie, therefore they taste better. But you may not know this, but some of your health foods are actually both nutrient dense and calorie dense. And that means that these are what we call sneaky calories, where you're eating healthy. And if you're assuming that, well, it's healthy, I can just have whatever I want of it, that's where it starts sneaking up. And that's what happened to my client. Again, we're going to call her Lisa for this. That's what was happening to her. And I'll kind of explain that a little bit more. So Lisa was eating 100% clean, but when we tracked her calorie intake, and it took me 2 months to get her to finally take a look at this, she was actually eating several hundred calories more than what her body required each day to maintain her body weight. Therefore, not only was she not losing weight, some weeks she was even gaining it. She even talked about feeling bloated and almost pregnant a lot of times because of how bad this was. She was pretty frustrated. So now I'll get into some of the solutions, but this was the first problem, is that she thought that just because she was eating clean and healthy, she didn't need to worry about calories. I mean, it's just, these are good calories. And she used to hear, and this was one of my least favorite things I used to freaking hear from other coaches, other trainers, is you don't have to count your calories. You just got to make your calories count. What does that even mean? Just make all your calories just like nutrient dense and you're fine? It's not the way it works. It's not the way of the law of thermodynamics. It's not what happens, okay? All right, so that's problem number one, is that clean and healthy eating doesn't automatically mean fat loss. Let me know in the comments if that was new to you. Now, you may have heard that before, but let me know if there was anything that was a little bit revelational, so to speak. Problem number two is what we call the hidden calorie problem. So many health foods are super calorie dense, okay? Meaning, again, it's great that they're nutrient dense, but they might be calorie dense also. This means that it's easy to overeat them without really realizing it, okay? So here are some common ones that trip people up. Avocados. One medium avocado. This is assuming that you're not even eating a large one. And several people I've seen back in the day when I was still doing private personal training at a gym, I would see people bring in an avocado that was like the size of my head. Probably not that big. I've got a big head, but it was big. It was huge. And they would not even have any clue of how many calories this was. So a medium avocado, about 250 to 300 calories for one of those little things. So if you get a large one, you might be looking at 350 to 400 calories for one. Now, this client of mine, Lisa, she was eating some days 2 of those. So for a smaller person, which she was in stature, she's eating dang near 600 to 700 calories in avocado alone. She's putting it on her eggs. She's putting it on toast, like all the things. Now, avocado is great. I love it. I like it, especially in guacamole. But the point is that for her, she did not realize how much this was adding up. Now, another one was nuts and nut butter. Okay. So 1 tablespoon of peanut butter is 100 calories plus. Okay. Most of the time now, and I did this it's probably 4 years back. I showed my clients because I wanted to show them the importance of weighing foods, not to be hyper particular, but until you kind of get correct your eating habits, it is a good idea to kind of figure out, kind of like if you're in debt, you got to watch your spending and you got to watch what you're taking in to make sure that you're not furthering yourself in debt. Now, I make that reference and analogy quite often because food, calories, fat loss, weight gain, it's all mathematical, the same as debt and the same as investing, okay? So the same principles that get you out of debt are the same ones that are going to get you out of being overweight. So nuts and nut butters, what I showed them was that I grabbed two single tablespoons and I showed them, I was like, what do you think? And they're like, yeah, it looks the same. Well, what they didn't realize is that neither one of those was actually a tablespoon worth of peanut butter. It looked like it, but it wasn't. Tablespoon number one was actually about 1.7 times the serving size it was supposed to be. When we weighed it, we saw, and I'm not going to throw out the grams of whatever it was, but we weighed it and saw that it was 1.7 times more than what a serving size was meant to be. Tablespoon two, which again, they thought was the same as tablespoon one, it was 3 times more than a serving. So what we had was 2 tablespoons. Neither one of them were actual tablespoons of peanut butter. So I was like, guys, if you chose tablespoon two, which again, that looked pretty common for my tablespoons, you're actually taking in about 400 and something calories from this 1 tablespoon. Okay. It's like 375. So they were blown away. Oh my gosh. I was like, now how often do you think this happens? I know for me, it used to happen all the time. So again, moving on, then we've got olive oil. 1 tablespoon is 120 calories. Guys, so many of your foods, if they're prepared or using olive oil or using some sort of oil, there's a good amount of calories that get racked up pretty dang quickly. Now, smoothie bowls, this is another one. Smoothie bowls, acai bowls, smoothies, etc. It's the quickest way to rack up calories. Now, I'm not dismissing and telling you don't eat them, don't enjoy them. I love them. But I am saying be aware of the calories. Smoothie bowls often are between 500 to 700 calories or more. Same with salads. I had one client that was like, Lance, I'm eating chicken salads every day. I don't understand why I'm not losing. And I take a look at her salad. I'm like, bring it in. Let's see. We start doing this. It was 1,300 calories. I'm like, girl, you got dressings and cheeses and nuts and pecans and all this stuff. Like, this thing is gourmet. I could have a cheeseburger and fries for the same amount of calories, if in fact less than what you're doing. What? You get what? She was shocked. So just because it's healthy does not mean that it is in your calorie budget, especially if you have been a chronic dieter, okay? Another one is granola. 1 cup can be 450 calories or more. I remember maybe that was probably 3 or 4 years ago, Lauren, my wife, she had granola, and it was like this cinnamon granola. So good, my gosh. And we didn't really have anything sweet in the house. And now, again, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I allow my clients and myself 20% of your calories can come from, or 20% of your foods can come from fun foods. Sugary foods, wine, alcohol, granola, ice cream, cookies. Choose your poison. But I remember this one time, and I didn't really stop to track it. I was just like, it's granola. I didn't really know how many calories were in this. And I made a kind of like a cereal bowl. So I added in some almond milk, and then, I'm having this, and I didn't really feel super filled up from it. But then whenever I went back, I checked it a week later, and I'm reading, putting it on the scale, and I'm seeing, oh my gosh, that cereal bowl of granola that I had was 700 calories. What? So I was just blown away, just ridiculous, hated it. Another one is healthy protein bars, often just glorified candy bars with 300 to 600 calories. So the point with this is that the hidden calories are in tons and tons of these foods. Now, this is assuming that you're paying attention to condiments, taste, bites, licks of different things, drinks, etc. All the things that we add into our foods all rack up too. So hidden calories are a big, big problem when it comes to the clean eating trap. All right. Okay, moving on. Problem number 3, the clean eating binge cycle. Guys, this was me and Lauren for years. And in fact, you'll probably see a few of my videos coming out soon. This was many of my clients for the first 5 or 6 years of my personal training career. Okay. So I kind of hold nothing back when I talk in this video. You're going to hear soon talking about how I was actually leading my clients down a very broken path. It was because it was the same path that I was on. I knew how to train them for their physique and did not get the full, let's say, the full gravity of the calories in thing when it comes to the clean eating binge cycle. When you restrict yourself, you're going to have a rebound, okay? So Lisa was eating so clean that she was constantly craving other foods. Now, she would tell me, oh, I'm good, I'm good. But finally, when we kind of went through and she lost a bunch of weight, she started sharing with me, yeah, it was actually getting pretty hard. She was kind of sharing with me, she'd hold out for 1 to 2 weeks, but then she'd eventually just totally break and go all in at a restaurant, or she binge at home with her husband, and this wiped out all of her progress. And she would feel like, she's like, Lance, for like 3 days, I was feeling so bloated. It was almost uncomfortable, where I was wondering, like, did I do something here? Like, I feel really sick. And so the point is that strict eating, especially if you do that 100% of the time, it leads to cravings that go unmet. And cravings are going to lead to binges if they're unmet. And binges keep you stuck in a cycle of getting in a deficit and out of a deficit. And that's exactly what was happening to her. So my question for you is, have you ever felt like you were doing everything right, but still not losing the weight or the fat that you wanted to? If so, just go ahead and drop me a me in the comments, or just let me know. Feel free to DM me as well if you'd like to. So how do we actually lose fat without over restricting, so that we're not having these binge cycles because we're feeling so deprived? Well, I'm glad you asked. First of all, if eating 100% clean isn't the answer, well, what is? Well, here's the cool thing. I'm going to give you about 4 steps of kind of what you want to really focus on, okay? So maybe they're more principles than steps, but we're going to call them steps. Step 1 is you've got to find out, what are your real fat loss calories? Most people have no clue. And again, I've got something here for you that's going to help you with that. So Lisa's biggest breakthrough was realizing finally that eating healthy was not her issue. She ate healthy all the time. It was her calorie intake, okay? She was not active enough for the amount of calories that she was consuming, and she didn't really have the time to be more active. She trained with me 2 to 3 times a week, and she got decent amount of steps in. Like, she was active enough, could have been a little bit more active, but for where we were, she was simply consuming too many calories. Now, once we adjusted her portions just slightly, and we adapted to do things a little differently, she's finally started losing fat, and it was pretty awesome. Now, what I want to share with you is that you can use my fat loss formula calculator that I told you about at the beginning to find your real fat loss numbers. It's also going to give you your maintenance calories as well, which is how many calories you need to maintain your weight. And if you get beneath that 15 to 20%, you're going to lose body fat. It's just that simple. So if you like that, go ahead and drop the word calculator in the comments, or DM me the word calculator. Just ask for that calculator and I'll zip it right over to you. It's going to absolutely change your life, okay? It's absolutely awesome. Took me a good week to build all this stuff, and it works so flawlessly. Plus, there's some bonuses on the thank you page when you get done and you get your numbers. You're going to want to tune into. It's just awesome. So drop the word calculator if you'd like to see that, or DM, and I'll send it right over to you. Now, so find your real fat loss calories. That's step 1. Step 2, follow the 80-20 rule. That's what we call it, okay? Really, it's the 80-20 rule of flexible eating. Now, flexible eating, if you're new to this, what this means is that you're not choosing healthy foods only, and that you're actually allowing yourself to get foods that might be considered unhealthy or fun foods intermixed. So basically what we might call it is just moderation. You've probably heard all your life, well, you don't have to cut out all your good food or all your favorite foods. You just need to eat them moderately or in moderation. Well, if you're like me, I grew up with absolute garbage eating techniques and principles, meaning that I overate constantly. I waited until I was hungry and I'd overeat, clean my plate. Like it was a disaster, okay? I just didn't have good eating principles and tactics growing up. So if somebody tells me like, yeah, Lance, just, use a little moderation. I'm like, guys, I have salad bowls filled with cereal when I'm eating cereal. What is moderation? A smaller salad bowl? That was my issue, okay? Now, I don't know if that's you, maybe not, but for me, that's where I was. So, moderation, unless you define it for me, it wasn't working. It just didn't help. So, I'm going to define that for you to make this easier. So, instead of trying to eat clean 100% of the time, I want to aim for 80% nutrient dense foods, and then 20% of the time, you're going to give yourself that flexibility of foods that you might consider processed, unhealthy, fun foods, more calorie dense foods. This means that you can still have the foods that you love and enjoy that might typically pull you off of your diet wagon, so to speak, because of cravings. This is where people normally self sabotage because they're like, Lance, I was craving a soda. I just wanted one Twinkie, and then it turned into five, and then it turned into this, and then I binged all weekend. Just because you're not giving yourself that room for flexibility. So this gives you the foods that you love without feeling guilty or sabotaging your progress because it's all mathematical. It's all mathematical. So it all comes down to those calories being in. Now, again, my clients don't count calories. That is not the trick that we use, but they do track their food intake to make sure that we're within the calorie parameters that will get them their goals and help them to meet them. It's a pretty small, it's a pretty small exchange to track your food the same way that you track your budget and to lose fat in a way that you enjoy it and it stays off forever. It's a small exchange for me. So the 80-20 rule is going to be your key. Now, step 3 is going to be to make small adjustments to those hidden calories that we just talked about, okay? So Lisa was still eating the avocados, the nuts, the oils, but instead of eyeballing her portions and assuming that she didn't really need to track it because they're healthy foods, she started measuring them out like I teach my other clients so that they actually fit her daily calorie intake. Small tweaks, big difference. And it doesn't, guys, if you're thinking, I don't want to weigh my food, guys, the food scales are like this big. It takes me like 30 seconds. So if this is my food scale, set that down, set it there, press the button, done. It's that simple. And it's not even a big deal. Like we've taken food scales with Lauren in her purse because it's this big. I can fit it in my back pocket. It's just not the same as what it was in the 80s and 90s. But having a food scale, not that I want you obsessed over food, but in the beginning, we've got to make sure that what you think you're consuming is actually what you're consuming. Otherwise, you're never going to get out of the cycle of losing and gaining and losing and gaining and wondering why. So it's worth it if you're tired of that, okay? And it's not hard. It's just not that hard. The hardest part is restrictions. So I'm telling you to let go of the restrictions, but just to be a little bit more choosy on some of the healthy foods, on making sure that it fits how many, like what you're having, portion size. All right, step 4, you got to get out of the binge cycle. But that only happens when you let go of the restrictions, of the strictness that you think is necessary. This is 20 years that I've been a fitness coach. I've been in fitness for 24 years. That's where I started my fitness journey. And never, outside of the first several years, never in the last 15 years have I done like what most people think it takes to get in shape. I don't do it. I wouldn't be willing to. And yet, even though I'm almost 40, I stay in shape and I eat the foods that I want. Like I had cereal last night. That was good. We have like buffalo chicken pizza, cookies. Like we enjoy food and I keep in shape. And it's not because my genetics are so great. They're not. It's because I have a system in place. And it's not because I'm so disciplined. I'm really not. I've got a system in place and it helps. It's a formula. Okay. So once we built flexibility into Lisa's nutrition, she stopped the binge restrict cycle completely because she's like, well, yeah, like if I want a cookie midweek on a Wednesday or a Thursday, I simply plan ahead. And by the time she would leave her practice, she'd go pick up a cookie or two. And she's like, so now my craving is met, but I didn't have 4 cookies because it wasn't a binge cycle. So I know that I'm within my calories that you taught me. I just feel great. So she started I remember she was telling me that she was able to get back to Qdoba again and Chipotle, things that she was avoiding for years. She was able to start doing again. And again, guys, she got into shape. It was awesome. Pulling really good deadlifts, it was crazy cool. So she started having things like frozen yogurt, burgers, cereal, guilt-free, and still lost over 20 pounds in under 60 days. Now, I'm not saying that everybody's going to lose that much, but for her, that's what her body was trying to let go. And once we got her dialed in, that's what happened. It was awesome. So, with that being said, hopefully this makes sense. If you're done with eating clean, but not seeing results, and I'm not telling you that you're done with eating clean, but if you're done eating clean all the time and not seeing results, maybe it's time to make make sure that your nutrition is actually working for you so you can get the results that you're looking for without putting as much effort and intensity into it. And especially feeling as deprived as what I know I used to. We would wait for a cheat day or a cheat meal. And guys, by the time I got to that cheat meal, because I was so deprived all week, I was like eating my weight in junk food instead of doing what I really wanted to do, which was just enjoying a little bit of an indulgence. Once I started doing it this way, the 80-20 rule, everything changed. So if you're done with all the strictness and the eating clean but not seeing results, maybe it is time for you to do a little bit of something different. So again, if you would like to access my the calculator that helps you to figure out your body transformation formula, go ahead and comment the word calculator or shoot me a DM. I'll send it to you, and you can start losing fat without the guesswork. And I'm telling you, like, since I've done this, I just feel like it's almost too easy to keep in shape this way. I will say the only hard parts are if you've been a chronic dieter and you've done just a whole lot of low calorie dieting, you need to expect that your metabolism is down regulated, meaning you're not going to get as many calories as maybe another one of my clients who hasn't done this and maybe has lost weight a few times, but they didn't just stay on a diet 24/7. So just know that if you have dieted, like if you're the diet queen or the diet king over the last 10 years, yeah, you're going to have less calories until we reverse diet and restore your metabolism. That's the only part that I would say is sucky, is just when I've got too low calories compared to what I'm used to. But the cool thing is, if you know how to do what I teach in my Joyfully Fit 365 system, you're going to know how to incrementally increase those calories and macros in a systematic way so that you increase the metabolism without gaining negative body fat or gaining too much, and you start to get way more food freedom because you've got more calories. So just know that that's my only disclaimer, is just to warn people, is like, if you've got a long history of dieting, it might suck in the very beginning if you're still trying to lose fat because you're going to have fewer calories. But if you do it my way, you're going to get those calories increase in a short amount of time, and then all the freedom and flexibility comes back. So that's the main gist. If you found this helpful, guys, please share this or tag a friend. Be sure at least to hit the like, thumbs up buttons below. It helps to send a message to the algorithm to say, this is the sort of content that people are wanting to hear, and it helps to send it out to more people just like you who need to hear this stuff to get out of the binge restrict cycle, the yo-yo dieting cycle, the weight loss cycle, all this stuff, okay? So before I go, tell me in the comments, which part of today's training was maybe the biggest eye-opener for you? Was it the hidden calories in healthy foods? Was it the binge restrict cycle that comes from eating so clean all the time and feeling deprived? Was it how the small adjustments can create massive results maybe? Let me know in the comments. So I'll be back soon with more fat loss tips and strategies. In the meantime, again, drop the word calculator below. Let's make sure that your nutrition is dialed in so that you're actually getting the results that you want to get. Thanks so much for tuning in.